consciousness? The Edge Magazine media platform is your ultimate one-stop shop for all things curious. We're a vibrant community of seekers and teachers passionate about sharing our gifts and abilities to help the collective explore, develop, and understand our journey towards higher consciousness. Our website, edgemagazine.net, receives over 10,000 views each month, boasting unique articles, enlightening forecasts, and insightful book reviews. Over 15,000 copies of the Edge Magazine are printed every other month and distributed to over 400 locations across the Midwest. Experience a world of opportunities with the Edge Magazine. Unleash exposure through enticing print and online ads, Edge Partner Directory membership, and community calendar listings. Share your experience in radio and multimedia interviews, connecting with our diverse community, and join our vibrant events. Connect with like-minded individuals and share your gifts here, there, and everywhere. Hello, 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 party people. It is Kelly. I am back live from the art room. What do you think? Like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a fun show. Okay, today we're bringing some new people in. First off, if you're friends of the Edge, welcome, Miss Cindy. How are you?
Everyone.
Cindy is not feeling well. She came off of a 3-day event with like 10,000 people in it with her daughter. She's live from Mexico. I'm so happy that you're here.
I'm excited to get to be part of this. You know, some people may know me from behind the scenes, but it's fun being in the front.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here. Today it's really fun. I went from Being Curious show talking about feng shui, and now we get to talk about one of my favorite topics, astrology. Hey, Cindy, who do we have here today?
We have Celeste from Astrology by Celeste, and she is just amazing. She's actually an Edge columnist for us. Can talk about that.
Say that fast 5 times.
Yeah. Our administrative assistant, Camille, had actually attended a conference that she was speaking on. And I tracked her down and was like, hey, we would love to have you write for the Edge. So now she does a monthly column for us every month with all the astrology updates. So I'm really excited for everybody to get to know her.
Well, fantastic. We're going to bring Celeste to the stage. Welcome, Celeste.
Hi, Kelly. Hi, Cindy. It's wonderful to be here.
We are so excited. And oh my gosh, I just have a feeling of like the percolating of the questions and the ideas. And astrology is just so amazing and so fantastic. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you flow into astrology?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Celeste Brooks, and I'm an astrologer, coach, and an intuitive and a speaker. And I just love astrology so much. I have a little different background. My background was I spent over 25 years in corporate sales, marketing, and business development. And I feel like astrology chose me in my 40s. I was invited to participate in a class about astrology, and I went, and it just blew my mind open, because astrology is the language of self-compassion. The theory is basically as above, so below. So the planets, what's going on in the sky with the planets, and we're really just talking about the mathematical relationships between the planets, is a reflection of what is happening on Earth. I look at it as a mirror rather than as causation. And each of us, when we are born and our soul incarnates, and it's when we take our first breath, it sets our astrology chart. And it's a map of our entire life. It speaks to our personality and the timing of life events. Now, we have free will. We can choose on, the high road or the low road of each of the energies that we have in our natal chart. But that's essentially what astrology is. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Like, okay, so we're currently in a Cancer new moon.
Yes. So every month.
What does that mean? I mean, I hear Cancer,
Yes.
And of course I go, and then it's like, okay, Cancer new moon. So talk to us, like, so we're letting everyone know we're filming on July 9th, 2024. And there's a there's a lot going on in the world right now. So I think Celeste is going to be able to give us a little bit of insight on that, especially with that. Let's kick off with that Cancer new moon.
Yes, and I should let people know, like, I work with people individually and in groups and teach in terms of astrology, but mundane astrology is my jam. So
Mm.
it's not just people who have natal charts, and getting an astrology reading can change your life, by the way, and I do that just so people know. But companies and corporations also have astrology charts. So I just
The
as well
Barbie
as
movie.
countries.
The Barbie movie, they timed it out perfectly through the astrology. I've talked to a couple people like that. They like it was in full flow when everything launched with that movie.
Did they do it intentionally or not?
I heard they did, but
Because
I don't. I
it
mean,
was striking the timing when Venus was stationing. Anyway, okay. So every month the sun and the moon come together, and the sun in astrology is our ego. It represents our conscious mind, and the moon, what we need to feel safe. It is also our subconscious mind. So the sun and the moon, the conscious and subconscious, come together every month in a different sign, activating a different area in your chart. And we just had a new moon on July 5th in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is a water sign. Water is intuitive and it's feeling. And it rules the home, the family, and the foundations. Now, when we think of home, we also can think of the country you live in. And if you're watching this right now, you've noticed like there's been since the sun went into Cancer, there's been this amplification around the world of somewhat nationalistic talking points, whether countries are going more towards exclusion of the other. This is what like Cancer can be. This is my family. And if you're not in my family, get out. Rather, or it can be welcome to the family. So these are two struggles I feel like we're seeing around the world. And underneath it all, there's something going on where Mars, the planet of action and drive and assertion, is in a sign it doesn't really like to be in. And it's getting ready to meet Uranus, the planet of shocks and awe and sudden events and reversals. It also rules elections. And yeah, in the sign of Taurus, which rules resources. So there's all these conflicts coming together about resources. So one thing to notice on the personal level, you might be feeling more emotional. Today, I was walking my dog and I just got a little teary eyed, feeling nostalgic, like Cancer is nostalgia. And yeah, but you're seeing people having extreme reactions as well in the personal, probably, as well as the collective with the Mars Uranus.
this is interesting. My family is we could do a whole show on my family on both sides. And both of my parents are estranged from their siblings.
Oh.
And I've had a reach out from two of my one estranged aunt and one estranged uncle in the last week. Like
Mhm.
like haven't spoken to them in 25 years. I had an almost 2-hour conversation last night with my aunt, my dad's sister, who I have not spoken to since I was a little girl, and we got on the phone, and it was like it'd been a week. It was this amazing hi, Barb. Nice to see you. Just an amazing and healing. And then I'm going to Wyoming tomorrow to go to my uncle's funeral because my aunt and uncle both died within a couple months of each other. So what you're saying is just so woo.
Well, there's another thing that's
Oh,
going
of
on with
course
that
there is.
said, because the new moon, like kind of what happens at the new moon flavors the whole lunation cycle, which is 29 days. And at the new moon, Venus, which rules relationships, Venus is the planet of love, beauty, and harmony. It's in the sign of Cancer around family, was sextile Uranus. And it perfected the other day, but that's surprises. And there is something about, a family reaching out in a surprise And Mercury, the planet of communication, is also sextile, which is an opportunity. Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion in the sign of Gemini, an air sign. So you will notice like more conversations. Like I noticed on my walk today, it was like, hi, 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 hi. Just talking more to just strangers, as well as there's really beautiful energy as well for meet cutes or getting back in touch with people you haven't talked to for a long time. So I love that you just spoke the astrology. Your aunt, you had talked to it a long time, reached out at a surprise, and you had a long Mercury sextile Jupiter conversation. Mm-hmm.
It was so beautiful. It was just it was and healing. Like, oh, just yummy. Just and I said yes because you know how many people would have let the phone go to voicemail or
Mm-hmm.
sat on it. And I just picked up the phone and let's go.
I love that. You
It
know,
was
it's
lovely.
so funny. My ex-husband's father friended me on Facebook, and I was like, "What is going on?" I was like, "Whatever. What if
Yeah.
he has to tell me something?" Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's just powerful.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the current energy. You kind of touched on that a little bit. Let's talk about that and it's interesting because we're represented right now in the US and in Mexico on the show. I'd love to see any insight cuz there's stuff coming down the pipeline. And then in Mexico, they have a new woman president who is of Jewish descent, and there's a lot of excitement on that. So, do you have any insight on those two topics? And I'll
Yeah.
be quiet now because I think you can take a big deep breath and go.
Yeah. So, in terms of the first female president of Mexico, a place that is known for, a lot of machismo and like strong patriarchal energy. So, as the election was coming, and the election happened, I believe it was 2 days before the sun, which spotlights things, focuses us on things, came to meet Venus, which is the planet that rules women. And so we were all in the world, well, all in the world, but there was this big focus, this spotlight on this election where a woman became president. And on the day, I think it was June 4th, like the dominated the news a lot about this. So it's a very exciting thing. A bigger thing that's going on in the world is that we're having this is the year where there are the most elections worldwide. And Jupiter, the planet of expansion, met Uranus, the planet that rules elections, on April 20th. But like this energy was coming together for almost a year. So that signified, this huge amount of elections, as well as last March 20th of 2023, I believe it was, Pluto, which has a mass influence and is the planet of transformation. It's the planet of life, death, and rebirth. And it went into the sign of Aquarius, which is the sign of the collective. And it hasn't been there since the 1700s around the French and American revolutions. And Uranus is a change maker. It can turn things upside down, and Pluto is a big transformer. So we're seeing this transformation of the entire collective in a lot of ways, and through elections with the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. Yes, throughout the world. And people want change. So we're seeing a female president in Mexico. We just saw in Iran, they elected a reformer who's maybe going to be helping women in some ways have less restrictions on their personal freedoms and getting rid of the morality police. In England, they got rid of the Conservative Party and brought in the Labour Party after, I think, something like 14 years. There was this shock and surprise in France where the far right got a leg up, and then the left and the center left came together to block them. They formed this coalition to block them from taking over. So we're seeing all of this stuff on the world stage, and I haven't even gotten to the United States.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
what I
about
was
to
about
say.
to say. I was like,
Let's
okay.
go. Let's
I'm
come
like,
on,
some of
let's do
this sounds amazing, but let's hear what's going to happen or what you're feeling for the November elections.
Oh my God. It's like, it's really, the United States is in this pivotal point in our journey. So there's something called the Pluto return. So each of the planets takes a certain amount of time to go around the whole natal chart, which is a 360-degree wheel essentially. And the sun, most people know about the sun's transits, because every year when the sun gets back to where it was when you were born, you have your birthday. Well, each of the planets has a cycle, and Pluto's takes about 248 years. And the Pluto return for countries is a time where there is a lot of change. So one of the things Pluto does is it breaks things down to the studs. It reveals what is rotten in order to be exposed and then like rebuilt in a lot of ways. So the United States is in this cycle of our Pluto return, and we are seeing the I feel like kind of the bloated and the excesses of our system of government and our society in a lot of ways are being exposed. Pluto's in the sign. We have Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, which is governments and big business. And we're seeing how, this massive distribution, the wealth inequality, what is going, how that's exposing so much. There's, the few are taking all the resources from the many and things like that. But before I get too far off tangent, we'll talk about what's going on in with the debate. Was a big thing that in the United States exposed. Some people are feeling like they've been gaslit about President Biden and his health. And so at the debate, he didn't do very well. And so now we're seeing all this chaos and reversals around requested about people wanting him to step down. So there's this big infighting in the Democratic Party. Yeah. And the debate happened on the day before, or 2 days before, what we call Saturn retrograde. Most people know Mercury retrogrades when when your devices start acting up, or two people get to the meeting at the wrong time, or you take the train to the wrong place. There's even something where people like go to the Austria airport. They have a desk for people who wanted to go to Australia. So that's like a whole Mercury retrograde thing. But Saturn is a planet of karma, boundaries, structures, the authority. And when a planet goes retrograde, it exposes things. So it exposed that President Biden had some problems with his communication and his thought processes at the debate. And then it set off this big fight where I talked about earlier, Mars and Uranus. They're fighting about whether Uranus, he should be the one in the election. He says he's not going. He's got all this fixed, he's a Scorpio with all this fixed energy. He has a chip on his shoulder. He has Saturn and Gemini opposite his ascendant, which represents him. He's very confident. He has his sun, his identity amplified, and his ego amplified by Jupiter. And a very beautiful Jupiter in Cancer. He's very compassionate and empathetic, but I could just feel when he's talking about I'm not backing down. How, as a kid, he had a stutter. How this is how he came to take on bullies, and we're seeing how his childhood is kind of showing up in his behavior. Yeah, and on the other side, this Mars Uranus coming together, what has been exposed and this peeling back of is this Project 2025, which the Republican Party has this playbook for if Trump wins to radically reshape the government, limit people's personal freedoms, and yeah, we're in a really tense time where like the question is, democracy, is it going to last? Is it not going to last? And how are we going to make things more fair? That's what I think.
What does the astrology say for the end of the year around election time? Like, where
It's
are we going to be at around that?
It's insane. It's really like right before the election. Yeah, right before the election, the Mars and Pluto are opposite each other. And Pluto is the higher octave of Mars. So Mars is a planet of energy, drive, and will. It gets us out of the bed in the morning. But it's also conflict and and fighting and war. So, and Mars is not going to be in a good sign. It's going to be in Cancer, the sign of what is called its fall, where it can act in extreme and ineffective ways. It's going to be opposite Pluto, this real deep intensity. That's also like Pluto rules brutality, and it's going to be like this. The fighting energy is at a max a couple of days before the election. So there's this huge buildup of energy, and then things change right before the election, and there could be a lot of conflict. I'm looking at studying the astrology about who's going to win, who's not going to win. I want to see who Donald Trump picks as his running mate. Now we have Joe Biden up in the air. Yeah. The other day, which just came to me intuitively, and it's more of an intuitive, it's not an astrology prediction. I kind of felt like, I wonder if Biden's going to stay in the race and he's going to win, because people are going to learn more and more about this Project 25 the closer and closer we get to the election, and it's going to scare the bejesus out of them. And they're going to say, no, I don't want this. We'll see. I want to study the charts more before I make an official prediction, but I keep coming back to I see Biden winning again.
Well, I would love to know your official prediction whenever you get there, because I was going to ask you that, but you're like, oh, and that's interesting. I think Project 25 is really going to shift the opinion of a lot of people the more they learn about it. I just learned about it a couple days ago, so imagine how many learned about it. A little off. I have a question. A little off.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned using your intuition, and then you also said you're an intuitive. How do you use your intuition in astrology?
Yeah, so when I'm doing a reading for clients, I use the astrology, but also, I get messages, and I use tarot and oracle cards. I always pull a couple cards for people, and that helps solidify the messages. But I'm actually doing this thing called 40 Days of Spirit right now, my friend Tiffany Herlick created. And every day I'm like going through this hour-long thing where I'm like meditating, getting in touch deeper with my intuition, because I'm really trying to expand my psychic skills. Mm-hmm.
That is awesome. Yeah. So I guess we're going to have to bring you back in a few months as Psychic Celeste as well.
The astrology is first and foremost. And then what happened was this past eclipse season. So every year we have 2 eclipse seasons, and eclipses are intensified new moons and full moons, and they set the tone for what we're going to be dealing with. And the one in April really was flashes of insight, and I got right before it, I just like had this like psychic opening where I started getting all of these messages and things, and about like silly things like what was the one that was the funniest was that Siamese twins would make news. Now it's backed up by the astrology, but at the time I was like, what? And then they did. There was the Siamese twins where they were married to a man, and it was all of these things. And we had an eclipse in Libra, the sign of relationships. And
I see Kelly thinking. She's
I saw that, and I just remember I want to know more about the sign. I actually saw that report, what you're talking about, and then of course I became curious. Like, I want to interview them, and I want to know what it's like to marry Siamese twins. Like, right? So, yeah, that's where I was. But isn't that fun when you get
Yeah,
those?
people are
Right?
fascinated. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was something about Venus and Saturn, like that's being tied to someone in relationship. And there was like this big element of sacrifice for the one who's not the wife. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
it is.
Like when they're being intimate, does the other one just kind of like close their eyes or put headphones on? Like,
I
and
was-
say like, just
I
tap
don't
me on the head
know.
when you're done. Like, I just like what?
I think they've talked about it, but I don't know. There's this great book called Geek Love that they have a characters that are Siamese twins in it as well that reminded me of. Yeah. It's
Oh,
it's a
I,
different
I already I
yeah.
already know what my new task is. Cindy, find the Siamese twins and ask them to interview with us. That could be interesting.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would just do it through curiosity. I mean, like, seriously. Okay, tell me about okay, wait. I got to go back to November. It just keeps coming back to me. So, what can we do to stay grounded going into the election season in the United States? And I think this is going to be something as a theme throughout our time together today. But it's when you're the way you were explaining it, it's like I saw kind of like the Civil War energetically going for the into the election, and then I also saw misinformation, and that's one thing
Mhm.
that I've been like Project 25. Let's touch on, like, do we really know what it is, and is everyone going to know? It's not that
Well,
everyone's gonna know it, so I'm concerned about misinformation. I for
yes.
going into the election. But then, oh my gosh, that's funny. Then my guides just went, "Well, there's been a lot of misinformation going back in every election. This isn't a new one. This is just like the lights shining on like a little brighter."
Yes.
Um
Well,
yeah, tell
well,
me more about that.
Well, another thing you realizing about the time we're in with Pluto and Aquarius, there's this huge transformation um, of the of the collective. And the thing that happened was AI, that Chat GPT, that coincided with the when Pluto went into Aquarius. And then we have Saturn and Pisces, which can be Pisces on the shadow side can be about deception, and Saturn's a reality. And it's like you don't know what's real and what's not. Think about you bring that the AI kind of technology together with Saturn and Pisces, and you've got deep fakes where you're looking at it's Tom Cruise, but it's not Tom Cruise. It's a simulation of him, but he's it seems like that he's saying what he said he's not saying
There's a
what he's
picture of
saying.
Katy Perry at the Met Gala that like in this dress. It was a gorgeous dress that I saw. But
Yes,
it
I
and
saw.
right? And like it looked stunning. I mean, it totally okay, never mind. It was totally like her. And so the
So
AI
you
is just
can't believe your eyes. You
yes.
can't believe your eyes necessarily. So, and Jupiter just went into Gemini. Gemini's an air sign. Air communicates. Jupiter, it's like this leaf blower of information coming at you. So, what can you do? Talking about Project 2025. It's a 900-page document. You can go Google it and read it yourself. It's from the Heritage Foundation. Now, there are other people who are putting out snippets about it and condensing it down to important points. So you want to make sure that the sources you're reading are 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 credible and reliable, and you can you can choose how you pick your sources. I like to at least start with places that okay, they have a big, their reputation is at risk if they put out something that's false,
Right.
like, like the New York Times or the Washington Post. Now, they're not the be all end all because the mainstream media has a lot of problems too. There's a lot of other places that, like, I like Democracy Now and some other things But yeah, you want to make sure you trust the sources that you're and they have the right background. But there's also something where, we've got to protect ourselves. So sometimes you just may have to tune out the noise, turn off the TV, like, yeah, filter your social media so you're not getting bombarded with all of this stuff, because it can be mentally anxiety inducing and a bit destabilizing. Yeah. And
Well,
know
it's
your
interesting. Like,
values.
you brought up the debate, and people were shocked about
uh,
President
from the
Biden.
minute it started.
I, I I seriously watched 3 minutes of it, and I went, "Okay, that's great," and I turned it off. So I did not, and I'm going to give my. I'm prefacing what I'm about to say by I did not watch the debate for more than a couple minutes. I wasn't shocked. I don't think I mean, he's been showing these signs for years, and for people to be shocked by it, but then also where I'm like, what? Um, I actually thought you saw Trump like, stay calm, stay calm, stay calm, don't explode, don't explode, don't explode. I mean, I saw that in the couple moments more than shocked by President Biden. But then I also, on the human front, want to give compassion for an 81-year-old man who's in a very, very, very stressful job. He's not a robot,
Mhm,
and he's human, and he had a human experience on this. I mean, on the stage. And
mhm.
I don't know. I think there should just be a little bit of compassion, no matter what party you're with or whatever. But for both men, I mean, that's a stressful situation
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. I have compassion for the American public as
Well, then
well.
there's that.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
also both of
Yeah.
them have their sons are in a trine with Jupiter. So they both have really big egos. I feel like President Biden does truly care about the American people, but he was supposed to be a transition president. But I think that ego kept him in there because he feels like he's the only one who can do it right. And he's done amazing things. The infrastructure bill, like he got up there, I watched the whole thing, and he didn't tout the chips bill, the infrastructure bill. His administration has done amazing things for the American people. And yeah, I have some compassion for, oh God, who hasn't at some time froze or like been in a situation where you didn't do your best? But you couldn't have picked a worse time for that debate for him astrologically. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You couldn't have
um,
picked a worse time.
Robert Kennedy Jr. Is
Yeah.
he what's going on with him astrologically, and is he gonna I think it would have been fun if they would have let him on the debate. Like, that could have been that would have changed the frequency of the debate on every single level. I
That would have
read
changed the
that
whole frequency.
it would
Yeah.
have changed right? He had more viewers on X than the actual debate had on CNN.
Oh,
Like,
really?
right? Like, that's fast. I mean, like, I just get curious and very fascinating on things like that.
Uh-huh.
Do you think
Yeah.
he'll have any disruption? I mean, I just keep seeing frequency, frequency, frequency with that.
Well, Jupiter Uranus, like he's a fly in the ointment at the election time. Now, there's something going on. Pluto's in Aquarius now. It's moving back into Capricorn right before the election. And to me, that's symbolic of, and it's going to be at the 29th degree of decay and crisis. And to me, this is like we're finishing up this work with the American system the way it's been. And I don't see at this point a third party winning. Now, a third party can totally change who does win. And I've looked at his chart. I haven't studied it that extensively. It hasn't, I don't know, there's something about it that doesn't really, I don't see how he could win, but I
No,
can see how he could eh,
disrupt.
disrupt, and he is disrupting because there are a lot of people who are going to vote for him, and there's thoughts that that's essentially a vote for Trump, but um Yeah, we'll see. He may appeal to a lot of other Trump
Right?
people as well. So,
You
yeah,
see
he's a fly in
chaos.
the ointment. Yeah, he's
Fly
a.
in the, I love that. You see the
Mhm.
chaos. Do you think it's
Yeah.
possible that the election doesn't happen?
I was wondering, that came to me as well, like that something could happen that I don't know. I mean, this is like something could happen that like lights out or something or systems down or something that delays the election or something like that. But that came to me, but I don't. That's just yeah,
So
that's
I'm
just a
saying this because we're
possibility.
recorded. I've been seeing the pictures, and I'm a picture girl with my
Yeah.
intuition. I'm not a yeah. I see pictures, so it doesn't mean that it's literal. It could be just
Yeah.
some very symbolic.
Mhm.
I see Joe Biden from a hospital bed, and basically like do it for Joe. And again, this could be, it doesn't mean that he's going to be in a hospital bed, whatever. But I just have this weird feeling that something's going to happen to him, and then the country or that party is going to come together and be like, do it for Joe, do it for Joe, do it for Joe, and so take that emotional swing for it
Ah,
in a
ah,
very like be patriotic. And it was interesting. I was getting that, and I've seen more Biden 2024 bumper stickers, and like I'm
ah.
riding with Biden. And ever since I had that just there's gonna be I just feel there's and maybe this is just an alternative timeline that I'm just seeing
Well, he's
or
on
right.
life support. That's what I got right now. His campaign is on life support right now. But we'll see after next week is the Republican National Convention. And there's this Mars Uranus that I talked about, that intense energy is going to be overhanging that. Now, I do a podcast that's called Celestial Insights, where I talk about the astrology of the week to help you navigate the energies like a boss. And next week's title is called Wrestling with a Pig. So I'm interested to see how that's going to show up. Like the titles always show up. Like the week of false advertising was Joe Biden in the debate, and there's all this talk about the the White House has been gaslighting the public about his vitality. But anyway, I'm wondering if there'll be a lot of protests or something at this Republican National Convention where the police and protesters are going to be in conflict, or maybe it has something to do with something else. But yeah, it's kind of wild. And yeah, yeah, I think expect the unexpected. I think we have no idea what's going to be going on around the election, or it could be like we're having climate change is moving. It feels like it's getting accelerating. I mean, there was the hottest day ever on record in Death Valley this week. You're seeing these storms all over, the earliest hurricanes ever hit, that Hurricane Beryl in the time. Like, I feel like we.
Cindy's been like, oh my gosh, like Celeste, I swear to gosh, like every week, Cindy's like, okay, we've got another tropical storm coming away. We got another one.
Well,
And I'm like, Cindy, you live in the middle of the country. What are
I know.
all these
Yeah, and
storms?
we got hit by tropical storm Alberto, and there was landslides, and people died, and roads flooded out. And I'm
It's
like,
so
I'm
scary.
200 miles from the coast. Why is it hitting here? And then they started warning that Beryl may come, but then it shifted, and now Houston and Texas got hit real hard yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, places that normally never flood or things like in Brazil are getting hit with these terrible storms. And that's something else that could be happening in the fall that disrupts the election in some way. That there's some storm or something that comes out of nowhere. Uh, yeah, it's scary. And like in New York, there was some bridge that like is frozen open because of the heat. Like the structures and things aren't meant, they weren't built for the kind of heat we're seeing right now. And it's causing chaos all over the world. We're in a pickle. And the part of Project 2025 is to scale back regulations so that corporations can again do whatever they want. Like back in this, I think it was the 60s where that river caught fire and it got the EPA going because the government realized they needed to have more regulation on corporations.
Yeah, you don't want rivers starting on fire. That's very
No,
bad.
you don't. Yeah. Yeah.
I live in Minneapolis. We didn't have snow for Christmas. Like, by the way, last year was a horrible winter. This year, I I'm a little selfish, but it was amazing. I don't think I put my boots on once. I mean, it was kind of nice, but
Yeah.
then in my little bubble, but big picture, ooh,
It's
like,
kind of scary.
it's kind of
Yeah.
scary, right?
Yeah.
It
And
totally
next
is.
year, there's huge changing energy where 3 of the outer planets are changing signs. So, that like I feel like this year is like kind of a setup for what's coming next. And it's gonna be a lot, but we need to use our tools, whether it's meditation, walking in nature, rubbing our feet in the grass, grounding within ourselves despite the chaos around us, because the chaos around us is not going away. It's
Okay, so you touched
intensifying.
a little bit on 2025. So we election, like, what do you see for the end of the year? Is 2025? I keep hearing that 2025 is going to even be like it's 2026 and 27 that we're going to finally be able to breathe again. Is that a good way of
Yes,
putting
yeah.
it?
If we can get through 2027, we're gonna be, but if the choice is ours, it's like we the people. If you sit out on your couch saying,
Yeah.
"I'm not gonna vote," and then, you know, the American system changes totally because you sat out, who are you gonna blame? So it's like we do have I personally believe, like, for Americans, this country is the greatest experiment ever with our democratic system and freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, all these different freedoms we have. And even though it's not a perfect system, we've had slavery, and all sorts of horrible things. There's still inequality, but it's worth preserving. This Constitution is an amazing document that's worth preserving, and I've heard they wanna, like, if there was a Republican takeover of Congress, they could literally vote to make extensive changes to the Constitution, repealing things like the women's right to vote or the ability to have contraception. Clarence Thomas, one of the Supreme Court justices, talked about taking away um, contraceptive rights as well as get the rights for gay people to marry. So there could be this huge scale back, and it could go. If it happens, it's going to happen really fast, is what I think. Within it's like 3 years or so, there's going to be massive changes potentially around the world, uh, if people don't rise up and assert their rights. And we've been seeing really positive things in terms of, in England, they said, we're had it with this conservative government sending us to the poorhouse, enriching the wealthy, sending the rest of us down the tubes. And in France, they said, no, thank you. We don't want this, Nazi regime type government coming in. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but big changes, fast changes. And I think a lot of it's going to be climate change is going to be becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger crisis we're going to have to make some changes
Oh, I
or
totally well,
yeah.
okay, so you talk about on your website, and I'm assuming in your podcast, the celestial cycles. Tell us about that, and then what is it like to live in sync with these cycles? Because I have a feeling that this conversation's like, okay, we need to be tapping into that.
Yes. Well, the easiest cycle to tap into is the moon cycle,
Okay.
where every month the sun and the moon come together in a sign, and they the moon, as the moon pulls apart, we have an internal push to take some kind of action around, depending on our natal chart. So just following the moon is a great way to start getting in touch. Every new moon, you set intentions, 2 to 3 maximum, about what you want to bring into your life. And you can think about the sign, and if you know your chart, the house it's in. I have a free guide on my website at astrologybyceleste.com, where it's called Setting Intentions with the Moon. So this can help you live a more intentional life, and you can break your big goals up into bite-sized pieces. And this is what I use to retire from my corporate career, because for a while I was doing both my astrology on the weekends and then my corporate career during the week. But I broke it down into these bite-sized pieces of each of the things over a couple-year period, and allowed me to leave and retire from my corporate career. So that's the first thing you can do. Also, just being aware of where Jupiter is, where you have Gemini in your chart. Jupiter is a place where we can expand, where we lean in just a little bit, and we can get like things come in easier. Yeah, depending on what house it is.
I'm writing this down. Where Jupiter is in your cut chart? Okay.
Know where it is, and that's where it is in the sky right now is Gemini, and its relationship to your Jupiter in your chart could be helpful for what you want to grow, and that's like ease and flow. And then knowing where Saturn is knowing where you're going to be tested, where you're going to have boundaries, where you're going to have limitations, and that's Pisces. And they're coming to square each other mid-August. So around August 17th to 19th, this is going to be very intense time.
Don't leave the house.
Year. Just be aware that you could be coming up against, like, you want to grow this, and then boom, something's in the wall, something's stopping you. Now it could be weather and flight delays and all of this kind of stuff, or there could be other things. But like, it's a challenge. Squares are challenging, but we can get over the hump if we are planning appropriately, have contingency plans, slow down, check all the details of things. Just be aware, like if you're traveling, triple check everything. Don't plan to get to your destination 10 minutes before your meeting starts, because there might be delays. You might want to fly in the day earlier. I mean, there are all these remediations we can do when we see these challenging cycles come up. But we know the Democratic National Convention is going to be somewhat chaotic, because it starts on the full moon in Aquarius. So it's going to be kind of wild. That's a wild full moon next month. And we have Mercury retrograde August 4th through August 28th. So this is a time of communicating mishaps. Like, there's going to be a lot of tension going on in the collective. So
I just keep seeing civil war. I just keep, I don't know why, I just keep seeing right.
Well, next year, it doesn't happen till February 2026. But Saturn and Neptune are meeting in the sign of Aries. And like, the last time Neptune went into Aries was the Civil War in the United States. But that was, and Neptune's going into Aries in March. So that's this big shift of energy where there's this spreading. Neptune rules the oceans, and there's like the spread of Aries energy, and Aries is impulsive, and it's like conflict. And yeah, there is the potential for a lot of spread of conflict. I really hope the Civil War is a war of words, I'm hoping, and not worse. But there are two things that are happening that there's a lot of worry about the United States and where we could be going. But we the people can take actions for whatever your personal values are. You should really vote for them and not sit this election out, is what my message is.
Cindy, I mean, you're our neighbors to the south. What's the talk with the Mexican people about what's going on with us?
Oh, there's a lot of tension between Mexico and the US, especially over all the migrants and people saying that it's open borders when it's not really open borders. And then Biden recently enacted that stopping migrants after it meets a certain amount per month or something, where they're saying no. Mexico is really trying to help the United States with the migrant situation, but unfortunately, a lot of people in the United States don't realize that we're dealing with the same thing here. there is definitely concern if Trump goes into office that there could potentially be a war between the U.S. and Mexico over it all. He's threatened many times to send people into Mexico, soldiers into Mexico to fight the cartels, and it's like that's not happening. Mexico is not going to allow that. So as an American living in Mexico and being the parent of dual citizens, I definitely worry about what our future is. I have a son, and I'm like, if war was to happen here, per law, since he's an American citizen, he has to defend the United States, but he's also a Mexican citizen. Apparently he could lose his citizenship if he didn't stand up for the United States, whether he agreed with it or not. So believe me, we've already thought to ourselves, if this gets bad, what country are we going to? Where are we going? But there's always tension. I'm really hopeful that with the new president, that a better relationship can be built. In regards to the migrant situation, in regards to the drug and cartel and gun situation. A lot of people fail to realize that Mexico has just as big as a problem as the U.S. has with migrants and with things coming across the border you don't want. So it's drugs that flow through Mexico into the United States, but it's guns that flow from the U.S. into Mexico, into a country where guns aren't even legal. So, it's, I hope someday they can learn to work together, but at this point, I'm not very confident in that.
Yeah, and water. That's another thing. There's fights about the Colorado River between the U.S. and Mexico.
There's always fights about everything, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. It's a really, really tough situation that needs,
No, I totally. So it is a time for compassion. It is time for people to really educate themselves, and like Celeste, what you said about really trusting your sources. And I think it's time for everyone to show up. I mean, this podcast, this interview didn't have to. It wasn't about showing up, but maybe it is, and maybe it is really important as we come together as a global nation. I mean, it was really funny. I saw the US and I was like, oh no, it's everybody. Like we all have to come as global citizens and support each other. It's just really important.
It really is. I mean, I feel like 2020 was a reset with the pandemic, but that impacted people all over the world, where Saturn or structures, Pluto were like completely broken down in a way and then rebuilt, and we're starting like anew. And it really kicks into gear next year. So the things, these elections that were happening now have a real impact. And for anybody who thinks their vote doesn't matter, I would disagree with you. We're talking about it could be a matter of 10,000 votes or the difference between who wins. So
absolutely. What kind of, and just as a part of showing up and educating yourself, what kind of classes and group events are you a part of right now? What's on your calendar?
Yeah, so I'm a board member for the Organization of Professional Astrology called OPA, and we're having a retreat in Park City, Utah, October 16th to 21st. I'm going to be teaching my Moon Mastery class, where it's going to be amazing. You can go to my website.
Did you see a retreat with a whole bunch of astrologers together? Oh my gosh.
Amazing. It's going to be fantabulous for people who are interested in astrology. I also, every month, I host Moon Circles. So you can check that out, where I talk about the astrology, give guidance for intention settings, what it means for you, as well as I do as many hot take natal chart readings as I can. I'm going to England August 28th through September 1st for the Astrological Association Conference in Leicester, England. And I'm going to be teaching about the consultation chart, which is for astrologers, helping them prepare for clients, as well as some of the energies next year. That is going to be fantabulous. And I teach for Kepler College. Transits class is going to be starting October 27th is the next transit class. So you have your natal chart, and then the planets keep moving. And that's what we've been talking about, is the transiting energies. And you can put your chart and then the transits around your chart, and that can show like what's happening with you. This is what astrologers use for predicting what's coming up for you and how you can best use your energy, as well as to be aware of what are going to be the tests that you're going to be, the nature of the tests that you're going to be facing. So that's some of the things I teach. I have my Celestial Insights podcast available wherever you listen. And then every Wednesday and most Fridays, I'm on Instagram Live, where on Wednesdays I talk a little bit about the astrology at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And then I pull oracle cards for each sign of the zodiac, oracle or tarot cards, and giving you a 3-card reading with your sun, moon, and rising. And then I interview people on Fridays. And you're welcome. I'd love to interview you sometime, Kelly, if you'd like to come on my Instagram Live.
I would totally love to.
Okay, we'll do that. Yeah.
You get 2 psychics together and anything's possible. Like, I'm telling you, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that's what I do. But I do personal readings, I do group events. People hire me to do all sorts of things. Corporate, I've got all this corporate experience. So like some of my clients are corporate leaders who I help with planning and all sorts of things.
It totally is fascinating. And I think if more people truly knew that, I know there's an astrologer there's board of directors, kings and queens, like it's that and a psychic. And then you're like both in one. So you're kind of like a twofer, which is really fantastic for everybody. But like going back to the Barbie movie, like I promise you, they sat there and they dialed in and they utilized it's utilizing the tools in your toolbox. And I think you are really good. You're an amazing teacher. You're completely dialed in. And what I really want to invite is anybody that's even just curious with astrology, with Celeste, check her out on all her socials, listen to her podcast. And actually at the Edge magazine on our website, astrology is on our heat map. So we look at our heat map and what people are looking for. Astrology is now the largest word on our heat map. So people really are coming to the Edge and magazine and network to dial in, because I really think that the astrologers that we work with are some of the best in the biz. I truly am honored to collaborate with you and Kim Woods, and we have Heather Roan Robbins, and we have Ryan. I forget his last name because his email address is the Flower Man. So Ryan Evans. And everybody's bringing totally different perspectives and your own frequency and energy to it. And it's an honor. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I so enjoy doing my videos for you guys every
We
month.
love them. And people love them too. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody watching, remember you can find her video on our YouTube every month, posted on our website. Snippets on our social accounts. Every month we get the information from Celeste to get it out there to you all.
I love the graphics Steve does for you. I can tell when he's working on it on the computer. I was like, good for you,
it's
man.
really great. Yes. Yeah. May you live in interesting times. It's like, oh my God.
We signed up for it though. That's the other thing, is like we purposely are like, we're here for a reason. Like,
we are.
It's go time. It's like I tell clients, I'm like, we are in the middle of a master class. It truly is. And to get your PhD in anything, you got to go through some craziness to get it. So that's what we're going through.
Yeah. And just a story about, you said, about business leaders. JP Morgan famously said, millionaires don't have astrologers, billionaires do, I think is how he phrased it.
Yep.
And an astrologer, a famous astrologer, kept him off the Titanic because she looked at the chart of when it was sailing and said, something was on the part of catastrophe. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
good for JP Morgan.
so cool.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, right? Like, good for
Uh-huh.
him.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here today. Give everybody your website one more time before we take off.
Yes, it's astrologybyceleste.com. Thank you so much for having me. This was such a fun conversation,
It was.
riffing on what's going on.
Spectrum.
Yeah.
It was
It's
fantastic. Thank you, and we'll definitely have you back.
thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Kelly and Cindy.
Absolutely. Okay. And Cindy, what a great co-host.
Even though I tried my best to stay as quiet as possible.
No, you did a great job. Thank you,
Maybe
everyone.
next
Have
time
an
I won't be
amazing.
sick. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a
Bye. Take
fantastic
good
one.
care.
Elevate your consciousness with each issue of the Edge magazine delivered straight to your doorstep. Immerse yourself in a community of curious teachers and seekers dedicated to the collective growth and understanding. Each glossy edition is a portal to expand awareness, featuring the latest in metaphysical and holistic products, services, events, and books. Let our engaging articles and comprehensive practitioner directory guide you on your journey towards higher consciousness. With every issue, raise your vibration and deepen your connection to the universe, one enlightening read at a time. Subscribe today at edgemagazine.net/subscribe and embark on a transformative